Okay, thanks for joining us. And so, as mentioned before, I'm Sam. This is Patrice, and we've followed pretty much the same format for all these calls, which have been a great thing throughout our equity crowdfunding round. And that is that I'll make a few introductory comments. Uh, Patrice will give a kind of brief demo of our core product, and then we can just open up the floor for Q&A for the last 15 minutes or so of the call. And generally those are, fairly diverse. We've had business questions, we've had technology questions, and we've had, just kind of random questions. So that being said, why don't I just talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the business climate right now. It is encouraging, to say the least. We see Europe in particular started to really revive about a month ago for us. We started to see more demo requests, incoming, orders, installations. It's a slow process because our sales cycle is typically 45 to 60 days. So essentially, when the activity started, we saw where the business was going to be. Not so much that it was that minute, but that's worked out really well so far. And the U.S. has lagged by about 3 weeks. So for us, the U.S. started to really kick in just kind of early to mid-June. And that is also encouraging, although the latest news on COVID kind of second spikes happening in places are obviously pretty cautionary. So it's very hard at this point to say how the economy is going to do over the next 6 months. But we are in an interesting spot because our software allows remote access to media, and it allows teams that used to have to work all in one office to be able to actually get their jobs done from remote locations and working from home. So even if you look at a place like Los Angeles, which may in fact have to have a second lockdown at some point, our customers that have the software in LA should be better equipped to weather that and get work done through that period than customers who don't have anything like that installed and are still relying on, physical proximity and the fact that everybody working on the media is in the same office. So we think that there's some kind of wind at our backs from that point of view. And again, we're very encouraged by the what we see as the kind of early trends for Q3 and Q4. So with that being said, I think I will turn over to Patrice for a demo of our software, axle.ai 2020. And then once we're done with that, we can answer questions, as I say, for the last 10 minutes to 15 minutes of this session. Over to you, Patrice.
Oh, good. Thank you, Sam, and welcome everybody. So what is Axle? So we are a media asset management solution. So now what does media asset management mean? It will mean that companies that have photos, video, audio files, they would need a way to find all of this material because it's actually growing exponentially, especially now that everybody shoots or take pictures from their phone, and you have more and more video that is being involved in terms of marketing, with Twitter, with Facebook. You have a lot of companies that are doing outreach by doing videos. And so they are spending a lot of money to produce video, and they need a way to find their media. So how is it going to work? I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to start on the demo. Here, let me just find the button. Excellent. So we have Axle that is accessible via the web browser. Now, that does not mean that the companies that are using Axle are hosted on the cloud. In fact, it is very rare, if not the exception, that companies are hosting their media in the cloud. Why? Because it's extremely expensive. Media tends to be big, especially the media that you edit from. we're talking about 4K or 8K media. What is 4K and 8K? That's the big high-end resolutions that you have currently available for movies, for the TVs and whatnot. So you need a very high bit rate, which means that the video would be heavier. Just to give you some example, you can have a 10-minute clip for editing that will hold on inside one DVD. So you cannot really have all of that in the cloud. You cannot really spend your time uploading and downloading. So everything is on premise. Now we provide the interface via the web browser, which means that once I log in to my system, I will be able to see the content of my drive. Oops, correct password will help. I will be able to see the content of my drive. So what will I see? Well, on the left side, I have the folder tree. And this is the exact replica that what you will have on your drive. So as I mentioned, if you're actually accessing the system remotely, you will still have the same folder structure. It's not just a database, it's your files that you see. And for each file that the system will see, it will create a preview, whether it is a picture, just like here, loading this picture, or if it is a video, I go back, I will then load a video in the video player. So you have the preview that is created. I can watch it on my web browser, which means that on a tablet or phone or anywhere that has access to the server, I will be able to see it. I can scroll through the video. On the right side, I have the tags. So I can just go and enter some tags such as date, drop-down menu, text field, you name it. I will be able to tag it and then perform searches at the top. And this is how I will find my clip. We are also bringing in data automatically from the photo or the video. Whatever we can detect, we are going to bring it up. And you can also post comments on the timeline, such as, which class. There is a small typo anyway. Which class, and you will see it is associated to the timeline. So all these tools are available to the end user to find their clip, which means that if I search for classes, it will still find this clip because I have tagged it. Now imagine this, I'm going to do a search across the board here, and you will see why Axle is useful to our customers. So we wait for the search result, and here we go. I have roughly 889,000 clips or files within the system. That's quite a lot to go through and find what I need. So if I wanted to search, for example, on Benedict, it will take literally a couple of seconds to give me 2 clips with Benedict Cumberbatch. And yet this one has a little hint here to me. Let me zoom in. You will see a little face here that tells me that it picks up as a facial recognition Benedict Cumberbatch. I'd like to actually jump in this clip and see what else we have implemented. This will be some AI tools that we help company tag their media automatically. Now, this is really where the key is for Axle, because anybody can use like a Google Sheet or a FileMaker or Excel spreadsheet and tag and say, oh, this is my file with this and that and so on. Or it will take a lot of time for me to go through everything and tag and say who appears when and so on. Now, what if we were to do that automatically? And that's what Axle is doing. See underneath the video player here, I do have all additional tabs in addition to the comment, like where the host is speaking. That's a comment that I have posted. But let's check out the faces. And now I see Eddie Bryant, Beck Bennett, Benedict Cumberbatch. Not only these have been tagged automatically, but I know exactly where they appear. So if I wanted to check this segment here, that is where Vanessa Bayer appears in the clip. Anywhere else, it is not. Same thing with Beck Bennett. And you will see, you will see on the blue areas where they appear. So that's already huge because I can search a person and know when they appear in my video. Now you can also know what appears in the video, such as here I will see holding or electronics. Let's check electronics. Okay, there's a TV here, right here, and you can have other type of keyword, television, woman. So that's it with Boeing. You can find other elements, other objects. So you can search for cars, you can search for type of animals, and it will find them and tell you again when they appear. So I know what appears, I know who appears, what about what is being said. That's another tool that we bring in with Axel. I can also search across what is being said. You're watching the game show network at 5, give me the money, please, the money, please. That's what is being said here. And again, it is fairly accurate, 95% accurate, so you can search on what is being said. This is a tool that can tell you, find me this person when this is being said. So you have all of that at your hand, and that was tagged automatically. We have also OCR coming up right here. So you have everything that is being written on a clip. And all this information is available with AI. So I've used one AI tool. We have also Axel Speech here, which is doing the exact same thing at a lower cost. And that will be a subscription model, a monthly subscription model, or on-demand buying blocks that people will have in terms of getting what is being said. So instead of paying somebody else to do the AI tagging, you can also use our services. That will be Axel Speech. And this was a quick overview of Axel. So we had the search. You saw that I was able to find clip with one keyword, 2 clips in among a million in just a couple of seconds. This is why a company wants to use it. And to answer to COVID-19, just like Sam said, look at that. We have an interface in the web browser. So nothing will stop me from going and having it on the internet. Now, we do not want the companies to suddenly open the firewall and get access from the internet to their storage. That would be a terrible thing. We don't want to do that. We don't want a repeat of what happened to Sony with North Korea. Right. So what we have done is we integrated also with reverse proxying, which means we have a server in the middle that will be in the cloud, and its goal will be to query the server in-house and then serve it outside, which means I can have a domain such as it can be any domain, but here I'm going to use my server, patrice.axle.ai, and have any domain and access the system that will be outside in the internet, but I'm still from home. I'm trying to remember the password now. Let's see if I can edit. No, it's actually, that's it. Okay, and from home, I will be able to now access the system right here, which means that I can go in, and if I need to edit these clips, instead of downloading all these massive clips, I can simply download the low-res proxies. Now I have that, and I can edit easily, and then reuse the original for when I do my render. And this has been actually really something that we spent a lot of time talking about, as you can imagine, in the last couple of months. Although, quick thing that I wanted to show you in this server, notice the dark interface. So we made it before it was cool with the iPhone. This was required because a lot of the video editors, they work in rooms that are dark lit on purpose, because you have a lot of color grading, the color to do when you edit your video. So you do not want to have a bright screen coming up suddenly when you have Axel. So we have also a dark theme interface. And with that, we are right at the 15-minute mark. I wanted to stop and see if we have any questions and hand it back over to Sam. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Patrice. Appreciate it. And by the way, folks can enter their questions in the Q&A little bubble at the bottom of the Zoom screen here. So while you're doing that, we do have a couple of questions that are sort of fairly commonly asked, and one of them is kind of what is our intended use of the proceeds of the Republic round? Like, what are our spending priorities going forward? I think based on everything we're seeing, and this was our plan even at the beginning of the round, that the number one thing we expect to do is marketing. We'd like to spend as much as possible of the round to get the word out about what we're doing, because in particular what Patrice just talked about, which was the ability to remotely access your media, this has almost universal appeal today. And if you compare it to when we were planning this crowdfunding campaign, at that time, it was kind of an interesting, nice to have thing. And probably a third of our customers ended up, really seeming to care about it. 2/3 were happy to use the software primarily inside their facility because that's how work was done. And we're not talking 5 years ago, we're talking February. So, right up until that point, most of this work was still conducted in what's called on-premise situations. And often in media, that means handing people hard drives. So there's one of our marketing slides that has just a pile of hard drives. That's because that was from an actual customer site that we went to. And I said, do you mind if I just take a quick shot of all those hard drives on shelves? And there's, sure. But we see that as often as not when we visit customers. Of course, we have not been doing a lot of customer visits the last few months, but the fact remains that that's how business was done. And it's a little bit a legacy of the old tape-based workflows in media. So back in the day, people would shoot things, these big bulky cameras, they would shoot to videotape, and then they would have like, a big clunky professional videotape cartridge, and that would be the show. What happened when hard drives and digital technology came in is that the hard drive essentially replaced the tape drives on a one-for-one basis, but they still thought of it as like, oh, here's the show, let me hand it to you. And then the other person would say, thank you, I'm going to take that show and edit it. Then they plug it into their laptop, they'd edit the show. There would be a little bit of cloud and a little bit of networking along the way, but the mentality was still very much, one show or one collection of shows, one hard drive. And obviously with COVID, all of those expectations have changed. People are not working just down the hall from each other. They can't just come down and say, hey, come take a look at this. They actually need to build distributed workflows and ways of collaborating from wherever they are. So that's a huge benefit to us. And essentially, if the more marketing we do, the more we expect to be able to reap the benefits in terms of new orders and sales. So let's see, one other thing that I'd like to talk about, I'll just put it out on the chat, is there was a recent webinar that we did with some of our customers that was pretty good in terms of a perspective on this. And I'm just going to type the URL right now for folks to.
While you do that, Sam,
Yep.
two things. We have a question about the not secure appearing in my URL. So that's a very good point, especially after I joked about Sony. It's simply because I did not set up HTTPS. That's the only thing. See, if I had bought a certificate and set up as HTTPS, I would not have the browser warning about the not secure. This is what you would typically see in your browser when you access a non-HTTPS website. But good
By
point.
the way, our customers typically not only do the HTTPS,
Yeah.
but they also use a couple of other layers of security that we recommend and configure for them. One is called reverse proxy, and the other that you may be familiar with is called VPN, virtual private network. So your HTTPS is like the most minimal level of security. Then you have reverse proxy is kind of one step above that, and kind of the Fort Knox is a VPN, where literally you have to be known to the administrator in order to be able to log in. And you have to have the software pre-configured on your laptop or your phone. So many of our studio customers have VPNs for that reason.
Great.
I can answer the question here. Yeah.
Actually, we have one person one attendee that raised their hand. I invited to talk on the question, but we can try to see if maybe allow this person to talk. That works for you, Sam?
Well, there's one written question first.
Oh.
So let me answer that one first, and
okay.
then we can go to the audio.
All right, sounds good.
So this question is, how much of a runway will this round give you? Do you expect to come back for another round next year? That's a very good question. The answer is, it's hard to calculate runway because we actually are pretty bullish about Q3 and Q4. We don't know that we will necessarily have a burn rate. Now, the reality is, historically, we have had a burn rate, but we're not sure we're going to have much of a burn rate in Q3 and Q4. And of course, we can't vouch for that. And we don't know for sure. The burn rate could in fact be consistent with the past. In that case, historically, we've had about a $20,000 a month burn rate over the last 2 years. And so let's say we end up raising, 90 or 100, then that might be good for 4 to 5 months. But again, our current thinking is that our burn rate in the second half of the year will be lower than that. And therefore, this round should carry us through the end of the year and then some. But that is just an educated guess at this point. Obviously, we can't, nobody knows for sure. And particularly with everything going on in the economy, it's very hard to make predictions. And do you expect to come back for another round next year? I will say that this experience of working with Republic has been tremendous. Like they've been great to work with. And we love the platform. We love the fact that it gives us a chance to explain what we do, because this is not like an easy consumer, play where it's like, I don't know, you see all kinds of things, some gimmicky things, some less gimmicky things, marketplace platforms. Most of those are very easy to explain. And some of them are fabulous, but it's by and large, it's much easier to raise money for those in a crowdfunding platform than it is for something a little more B2B, a little more technical and specialized like what we do. And so when we went in, we really didn't know if this was going to work or not. But I think that the way the platform is designed and the way that, again, you can communicate not only outbound, but also receive questions and field them not only on this call, but the Q&A sections on the site, and then the ability to add updates as new products or new announcements are made. All of that has worked really, really well for us. So in fact, I was just talking to the Republic folks earlier today saying that we would like to come back and probably do another one of these, and probably with a higher ceiling as well. We just did the most basic one, which has a ceiling of 107,000. But in the future, and I think the SEC is also raising the limits on Reg CF so that it should be possible to do more than $1 million and maybe as much as $5 million rounds in this format. So that's all a very exciting prospect for us. So I think odds are good that we'll be very interested in doing that.
Great. Actually, I don't know why I did not see the Richard's question, but Richard was the person that raised his hand. Thank you,
great.
Sam.
All right, so it's all good. Yeah.
Catching it up.
Yep. And we don't mind ending a minute or two early here. If there are other additional questions, we are happy to answer them. And let's see, I'm just trying to think. By the way, one other thing is, go ahead.
Who is the market? Who is the software intended to?
Intended for, yeah. So it's basically video teams of whatever size, but the typical size is from 3 to about 30 people. It's very rare that we run into a group, and we have a few proposals out now that are more like 50 people, but that is really exceptional. Most common, it's like, hey, we got 6 people, we got 9 people, 15 people at most. And generally what they're doing is they're shooting something, bringing the footage back, and then they're responsible for editing it, whether it's for OTT distribution or for social media. In a corporate environment, if they're shooting marketing materials, it's for social media. If they're shooting corporate all-hands meetings and things that are aimed at an internal audience, then it's more for an internal streaming service. And then there are things like sports teams. So some of our best customers are sports teams and venues, churches. But again, it's something about the kind of the natural size of this organization. Everywhere you go, the teams are roughly similar in size and scope. So one thing that can confuse people about us is we have all these verticals, like churches, sports teams, political campaigns. Like, what do these things have to do with each other? The video teams that go around and do the work, they all have the same cameras, the same editing software, same laptops, same tripods. Like it's one market, but it's kind of spread among all these different verticals because that's where these video teams do their craft. And the important thing is that if you'd asked 10 years ago, these teams really only existed in professional broadcasting, and nobody else had this level of production. And now, essentially every company of a certain size, every church of a certain size, every sports team, every venue, government organizations, they all have to have this. Because if they don't, they're not communicating with their constituents or their customers. And that's a massive change, and it's what we're riding, along with, of course, the power of AI to be able to analyze all this footage. So we know that more and more people are shooting the stuff, and we know that AI can analyze it at a pace that will keep up with the content creation itself. So all we're doing is trying to bring those things together, bring that power of AI and metadata into the hands of these hundreds of thousands of teams worldwide. And I will do one thing. I'm going to just type in another URL, which is the Meet the Drapers episode that we were on, in case folks want to take a look at that. So, and that one, Patrice and I get a chance to sort of pitch what we do in a little more drawn out fashion. There are questions. And the other cool thing is that, they've done this really nice overlays of, kind of B-roll and people doing stuff and whatever. So it's a little more entertaining than just a Zoom conference call. So with all that being said, thanks everyone for joining us. It's been a really good session, a really good series of sessions. And we are also very reachable going forward. I'm just Sam at axle.ai. Patrice is Patrice at axle.ai. Basically, the whole company just goes by first name at axle.ai. There's only 18 of us, so we don't have an overlap yet where the same two people have the same first name. So anyway, thanks again for joining us, and look forward to further communication. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.